We're back again. It's been a few weeks away. Liez, hot takes. How you doing, mate?
Hey, we're making this a regularity. It's been good, you know. Last game United played wasn't great, but there's been some good football on display, good performances, some crazy-ass tweets, some crazy-ass takes, and let's talk about them.
Exactly. And of course, the big weekend, FA Cup final, most historic cup competition in the world.
Yes,
we're going to preview that on today's game as well. But I wanted to start with a bit of news that's been trending the last couple of days.
Of
course, we're recording this yesterday. So the world might have changed by then. He could be a Man United player. The deal could be off. But Frenkie de Jong to Manchester United, Liez, talk to me about this big link and this big credible story.
I mean, Frenkie de Jong, first of all, is a player that I really admire. I've admired him for a few years. I think he's one of the most talented young midfielders on the planet. I don't think that's debatable for anyone. And we all saw the impact that he had on Erik ten Hag, who ironically is going to be Man United's new coach. We saw his impact that he had on the Ajax team. Really, really talented player. Since then, he's gone on to move to Barcelona for big money, and it really hasn't lived up to expectations. I think that signing has almost represented United's problems in recent years, where they buy a player that they don't really know where he fits in. Maybe they buy him with an idea of playing him in one position. He doesn't fit in there. A different position, he's not that kind of player. And they're now in a situation where already they need money, and he is their most valuable asset that they can sell on. Again, we talk about the Ten Hag link. That almost makes so much sense in that regard. But I have my pros, my cons about this transfer. I think like if we were able to get a player like Frenkie de Jong in, you always want to buy talent no matter what. I mean, we talk about the intangibles, like can this player work hard? Does he represent the values of a United player? But at the end of the day, you want good players as well. And Frenkie de Jong, if you are able to mold him into the kind of player that you envision for the Manchester United's midfield for the next 5 years, with a manager who already knows what kind of player he is, I think that's unbelievable business right there. I think the price in this modern age isn't the worst. 65 million pounds? I think you could do worse than that. And I think he's a player that, again, you have to trust your manager. And if Erik ten Hag looks at this guy who he's already worked with and looks at that talent and says, I can do something with this guy like I did 4 years ago, you have to be encouraged by it.
You do. And look, he's been involved already. Yeah. I don't know. They haven't really admitted to too much of it. The day after they win the league title, it's officially confirmed that he's been in meetings with the board. Yeah. You know, he's been having these conversations in the build-up. They just didn't make it public because Ajax were still in the title race. I think it's a phenomenal player. He's a world-class player, in my opinion, and I'm excited about it. I do get the challenge from people that more is needed.
Yeah, 100%.
But this is where I'm so intrigued by this summer for Man United, because there's links of Christian Eriksen on a free.
Yeah.
There's talks of Kamara on a free. And I kind of look at it and go, if we would have signed Christian Eriksen, Kamara for free, and Frenkie de Jong for 65 million. 65 million total spend on midfield this summer, and you get those three players
it's not bad.
For year one. And I think this is where, for me, I want to remain patient. We are not fixing every problem at the club.
Correct.
This summer. Now, a lot of people will say you need that world-class specialist, born, bred and ready CDM. And look, I'd love a kind of, or six, everyone calls them something different now. I'd love a Basuma. I'd love a Ruben Neves to maybe come into that mix as well. But potentially you could even do that if two players are free signings, if United were to be able to go out and land 4, 5, 6 players. Right. But we've got to address the defense, the midfield, and the attack. I know you want a new goalie as well, but we probably know that's not happening year one. It's almost, there are certain positions like left back, probably goalkeeper. There are maybe a couple of others where you think we need to improve, but it isn't a glaring issue right now. Central midfield with Pogba and Matic leaving, and of course we don't want Fred starting games. You have to address it. So I'm intrigued to see what else comes in with him as well, because of course him by himself isn't enough to propel Man United 100%. Forward too far. But I'm intrigued by it. He's a very talented player. And for a like-for-like replacement for Paul Pogba,
I think it's brilliant.
He's pretty damn good.
I think it's brilliant. Like I've always said, replacing Paul Pogba, everyone can say whatever they want about him, but finding talent of that caliber is very difficult, and you have to pay premium dollar to get it. And typically in a phase that United are in, which is not competing for trophies, 5 years without one, potentially playing in the Conference League, it's very difficult to find that upper-class talent that would want to come for you unless you pay them insane amounts of money. So if they were able to get a Frenkie de Jong, who I hear the criticisms of, like I hear, oh, it would just be like buying Pogba and that you don't have a specialist role for him. Having a Paul Pogba is never an issue. The issue is when you don't surround him with players that can reduce his flaws. So for example, I hate to bring it back to Pogba when we first bought him, but we never bought a ready-made midfielder that could accompany him in the 5-6 years that he was here. If we buy a Frenkie de Jong, but he's accompanied by a Calvin Phillips or a Boubacar Kamara, and then you have those two in midfield, I think it masks a lot of the flaws that people are already saying Frenkie de Jong has. We never did that with Pogba. So the issue isn't buying a player like Frenkie de Jong. It's just making sure that we don't just buy him and expect our midfield problems to be solved, because it's never going to happen.
And in fairness to Paul Pogba, but for the last 4 years, he hasn't wanted to goddamn be at Man United. We know that because his agent, God rest his soul, was trying to get him to a move in the January of 2018 to Manchester City, which was what, 18 months, 2 years into him being at the football club. So I get the Paul Pogba comparisons. I've seen it from a lot, by the way, it's a lot of gooners that I've seen talking about this, almost outraged by Man United's approach for Frenkie de Jong.
It'd be brilliant for them too, by the way.
Of course he would. But I always feel like the rival outrage, like, oh my God, why would you do this? You need this first. That outrage kind of makes me think, oh, it's pretty decent then. Because when we've signed certain other players, it's been laughed at. That's the banter. This is not being laughed at. They're acting like they're Man United fans that are disappointed. And that does lead me to my first big hot take.
Go ahead.
I want to read this one out to you. This is an intriguing one, right? So this is from someone called For the Arsenal, so a gooner, who says, my prediction, Arsenal will land Tielemans and United will sign Frenkie de Jong. We'll go all summer being told how United have done the better deal. Come the end of the season, Arsenal fans will be the ones laughing.
I think there's a chance that they could, but that doesn't make the Tielemans signing better than the Frenkie de Jong signing. It may just mean that Arsenal are in a better position to sign a player like that, and he's going to look better in a ready-made system, whereas we're rebuilding our midfield. We could sign Tielemans and they could sign Frenkie de Jong and they could have that same argument. It's just a far better situation for a player to walk into. So that kind of logic for me, like, do you believe Tielemans is a better player than Frenkie de Jong? Personally, I don't. I think I would challenge anyone that would have that opinion. Yeah, that's really my stance on that.
And I get the guy's point. I get the guy's point.
I think he could be 100%
They're pulling on the Varane, Ben White thing.
Yeah.
Because in terms of the progression of the two clubs, Ben White and Arsenal have had a better year this season than Man United and Raphael Varane. Right. But I still think it's a good bit of banter. But if people start taking it seriously, that's when we're getting back into, and I know you love this turn of phrase, but we're in a micro penis competition again. Do you remember who was the best striker signing? Lacazette, Lukaku, Morata. Now, you look back on that, we all lost that debate. But when Man United sold Lukaku and Morata left Chelsea, Arsenal fans celebrated, we won the debate. But you didn't win, really. In fact, you probably lost the debate.
By the fact that you
had to stick with him longer, right? And Chelsea went on to win the Champions League. Man United, of course, didn't win anything. So we're in the mud anyway. But you've kept a player at your club for far longer than he should have been there. That's why you guys know you need better this year. That's why you're looking at strikers. You were trying to sign Vlahovic. You're looking at Nunez and others now. But I just get this sense of like, you might be laughing, but the only time you're really laughing is if Tielemans and a few other signings are the players that are actually going to take you back to winning Premier League titles again. Because until that point, there isn't really too much to laugh at. There's a bit of bragging rights, but it's going to be intriguing. And I think you're absolutely spot on. If Ten Hag actually creates a system that's balanced, and I still think people are underplaying the volume of good quality players in the Man United squad. I don't think it's as threadbare of quality as people are making out. I believe there's a lack of confidence. I also believe there's a lack of effort from players as well. And I think Erik Ten Hag will help kind of turn that round. But Frenkie de Jong, it is one of those signings that gets the juices flowing.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm just trying to remain calm because I've got too excited before and nothing's happened because the club's been a shambles. But
no, I think as well too, like there was the big report from Gerard Romero last night that got everyone like excited, but I think there were more reports today that were a bit more even keeled, and they were basically saying that, look, Barcelona has committed to selling him, which isn't 100% yet. He needs to be okay with the move. Xavi needs to be okay with the move. And I think in terms of Man United, he has to buy into the Man United project as well, because it's one thing, the Ten Hag pull. But the Ten Hag pull can only pull you so much. If a Manchester City is after him, we are never going to win that battle between
Of course. And it's selling the projects in the direction that we're going
which is tough at this moment.
It is. The one positive thing from it is, though, that so many senior members of staff are being dismissed or moved on or resigning.
But here's the thing, though. For a player, that means nothing. For a player, success, I think, is the biggest selling point.
I agree. But I think what it does do, it allows Ten Hag and whoever had, whether it's the Myrtles, Fletchers, whoever it may be that's sitting down and talking to him, it's, look, the project's here, but look at all the changes we're making. This is the plan. If it was, we've got this new project, new plan, but it's being run by all the same people and nothing's really changing but the manager, I think it's a harder sell. True. But it's, I do agree with you. If another big, very successful in the contemporary sense Champions League team comes in for him,
we're in trouble.
We've got little
then
to no chance.
we have money is the only thing right now, and clout is the only thing that is winning races for United at the moment. In fact, every time United buys or signs a new manager or a new player, I almost kind of like sit a little back because it's like, well, why are they coming?
Well, I want to see the salary first. I want to see these things.
100%.
I totally agree. I totally agree. But viewers, what's your thoughts on the hot take there? And Frenkie de Jong to Manchester United. We want your thoughts and we want your feelings on that as well. Now, this weekend's big.
Yeah, huge.
FA Cup final. Liverpool's quad's looking a little bit precarious with the league title looking like it's going Man City, which we'll touch on later.
Yep.
Big final for Chelsea as well, though,
huge.
because they've lost, I think, 3 FA Cup finals on the bounce. They lost the League Cup this year already to Liverpool, so it's a repeat of that domestic final. From your point of view, how do you see this game going?
Listen, Chelsea are such a weird team in such a weird position, and there's a possibility that they go trophyless in a season where there was so much expected of them. And it's not just trophyless. The way they're ending the season is catastrophic. So for me, this final is everything for them. It's everything for Liverpool as well, because they're in a position that, right, like this quadruple in a few weeks could end up being a Carabao Cup. And all of a sudden, the greatest English team of all time ends up becoming, I don't even know. Like
and also run.
A distant memory. So it's huge for both teams, honestly. Where do I see it being won and lost, though? Who do I even see coming out of this? I think you have to look at Liverpool. Although I will say that Tuchel has shown that in these big games, he on himself virtually can coach a game plan that keeps him to teams with far more talent than his does. So it's going to be a really good game, I think. I think you have to really look past the form of Chelsea in the last few weeks when it comes to a final like this. I think they're going to be up for it. But I find it very hard to look past Liverpool in almost any game they play these days. Even though, again, like Villa was a tough game. Villarreal was a tough game. They've been having these games more and more recently, but the mentality of that team is just elite level. And I think they're going to get it done this Sunday.
Liverpool are the favourites.
100%.
Liverpool are the better team.
Yep.
Liverpool have the better squad.
Yep.
They have the better manager.
Yep.
But that's why I think Chelsea are going to win.
Really? I'd love it. But
I'm getting a gut feeling again. Too many people are writing Chelsea off.
Yeah,
and
100%.
And I don't think your analysis is writing them off. Too many. Nah, we've got it. We won't lose that. No way. Almost, we'll get... The way I've heard some people talk about it is we'll get it done so we can forget about it and move on to trying to catch City in the league and win the Champions League.
I think they're talking about like West Brom, the way they're talking.
Yeah, but it's almost this. You see this in, again, I think mentality is important. You see this a lot at elite level fighting, where people are thinking about the next fight, the super fight, as opposed to the opponent that's in front of them. And on occasions, they get caught short because they're not 100% focused. And
True.
I think this Liverpool team will go into this game and give it their all. But I almost feel like what this is going to do is the opposite effect. It's going to gear Chelsea up further. I think in the next 48 hours in the build up to that game, the talk, the noise, the socials, the media, it's going to be, no one's giving us a chance. Everybody's predicting Liverpool. Everybody's saying it's going to be them. Let's go out there and show them what's what. That can even galvanize teams and players in moments that you don't expect. Arsenal, 2017, everybody wrote them off against Chelsea. Yeah. They went out. Alexis Sanchez inspired performance. They win the FA Cup.
You remember Chelsea last year in the Champions League. They barely made top 4 the last day of the season. They lost and they had to rely on other teams' form. They go into the Champions League against the proclaimed best team on the planet. They wiped the floor with them.
They absolutely did. Chelsea in 2018, Manchester United, FA Cup final.
Yeah.
Antonio Conte's team were a mess. They were a mess. No one gave them a cat's chance in hell. It was the first time I watched Chelsea content creators doing like dual previews, and none of them were confident of a win. I remember sitting in a room with Sophie Rose and Rory Jennings. We were all sitting down, and they were like, "Oh, you're going to batter us. You're going to batter us." And exactly what I've just said there about why I think Chelsea will beat Liverpool this weekend, I said about Chelsea beating United. And they kind of looked at me like I was crazy. They said, fair point, but they were like, I think you're being a bit mad. And it happened. And I just get this feeling it's building up that way.
I mean, form goes out the window in these finals, right? It's styles make matchups make fights. And I think like you see, I can't remember who it was on one of your shows I was watching this week, basically saying like, oh, Liverpool has Chelsea's number. They don't, by the way. Liverpool and Chelsea have played 3 times this season. And in regular time, it's ended in a draw every single time. They won on penalties in a game a penalty shootout that went the distance.
Yeah.
So Chelsea has Liverpool's number. They know how to play against them. They have the requisite pieces that they need to contain them and stay on level foot for 90 minutes. The only thing is, do they have that match winner for me? And it's been my question of Chelsea all season. I don't think they do.
Lukaku's going to win the game for him as well.
Oh man,
I just look at it and I feel like he's going to get. And by the way, it will be a dirty dog breath goal.
Of course,
it'll be like a weird, like someone will shoot it his arse and go in. It'll be something like that. Maybe not as warped.
Here's my question: Does the FA Cup final come into play when we talk about the everybody eats season? Is that part of the everybody eats season, or does it? Because if so, Werner and Lukaku, it might be a madness this weekend.
Well, I'll give you an example though. Like they didn't win the game in the end, but like Werner against Real Madrid, he was very, very good. And it's. I feel like someone like that will have to have a performance in that way to do it.
Yeah, of course.
The way Liverpool win, if Liverpool score early, I think they win the game. They almost have to like blow Chelsea out the doors early on. The longer those games go on against the real elite teams, Chelsea have typically got better in those games. And I almost feel like with the new owners in the crap behind them now, it's almost a way of, you know what, let's just end our season on a high note, get that trophy, and let's start the new era on a high. Now, from a Liverpool point of view, I also think there's going to be a bit of pressure in this game because the quad looks like it's gone.
Yeah.
They've got this cup, these 3 trophies they can win, this cup treble they might be able to win. They suddenly lose this FA Cup final. The amount of pressure on them going into the Champions League final is going to be huge because, as you've said, if they end up with, it's mad, they can end up with a Carabao Cup, and this season is going to be looked at as a huge,
massive failure,
huge disappointment. So I think there's that pressure in that as well. I think Chelsea go into it as the underdogs. Chelsea go into it being written off. Chelsea go into it with a little bit less pressure on them because even if they fail, because of all the turmoil this year, rivals will banter them, but I think internally it will be a case of, right, but we start again properly in the new era next year. Like we're 0-0 because the ownership hasn't even really been in charge anymore. It's almost just go out on a bang. But it's going to be an interesting game. I'm going to go with 1-0 after extra time Chelsea.
I'd love it. I'd absolutely love it. But I see 2-1 Liverpool. Again, I hope I'm wrong. It's going to be a tough one.
I want to keep it on Liverpool for a minute, though. We're going to speak City in a few moments' time. But KDB had a brilliant performance on Wednesday night.
I called it virtuoso.
Virtuoso. I like that. 4 goals. I know Lampard scored 4 goals once, I think.
There's been a few scored 5, but they're almost all strikers.
Midfielders. I can't think of many midfielders that have done it. The people in the comments will probably tell us. I think I know Lampard. I don't remember him doing it, but I bet he did.
Sure,
he scored so many goals. I'm not sure if any other midfielders in the Prem have done that. Sensational performance from him. This hot take's from me. And I actually want to read my own hot take out properly and explain it as well, which in fairness to the other people that we feature, I can't explain their take because I'm reading it. They're not in the room, right? But I tweeted this last night and I want to just scroll down and find it again now because I want to make sure that people understand this.
People got tired.
I said, has Kevin De Bruyne surpassed Steven Gerrard's Premier League legacy? Now, let me just caveat that by saying, I'm not saying that because I think Steven Gerrard is the best midfielder ever. I have put Gerrard somewhere in the top 10, but not in the top 5. And I'm asking whether or not people think he's surpassed Gerrard on his way to joining the top 5 central midfielders of all time in the Premier League.
I think the key word there was legacy. And when you talk about legacy, you're talking about trophies. I mean, you're talking about more than just trophies, but trophies fall into the argument. It has to. It absolutely has to. For me, I've been on the record on your show actually saying I think Steven Gerrard is the best Premier League midfielder of all time in terms of skill set, in terms of like what he can do. But if you're talking about legacy and trophies as well as individual awards have to come into it, I don't know how you can argue it, to be honest with you. De Bruyne is on track for what? His 4th Premier League title. He has 2 PFA Players of the Year. And the way it's going right now, I mean, listen, Salah for me should be the winner, but I wouldn't put it past them giving De Bruyne another one, given the way he's ending the season, almost carrying City to this title. He's been in the Premier League Team of the Season a few times, which granted Gerrard has almost dominated when he was playing. I think if it's not yes, then yeah, he's on his way 100%. I don't know how you can really debate that because at the end of the day, we understand the teams Gerrard played in, whether you think they were as bad as Liverpool fans do, or whether you or I would say they were not as bad, but they probably weren't at the level to compete with United. Yeah. They still have to come into effect, guys. Like the aim of professional sport is to win. And if we're talking about purely Premier League right now, Gerrard hasn't won.
I agree. Look, the point was legacy. I didn't say better player then.
That would be an argument.
Steven Gerrard is, and some people would say that KDB is a better footballer than him. I think Steven Gerrard was a world-class football player.
Me too.
I question his decision-making at staying at Liverpool. And I say that because if Lampard stayed at West Ham, he wouldn't have the legacy he's got now.
Correct.
You know, if Roy Keane had stayed at Nottingham Forest, he wouldn't have the legacy that he has now.
Correct.
And you can probably find 100 examples like this of football players that you know, if Ronaldo says, you know what, I'm standing at my boyhood club my whole career, Sporting Lisbon, he wouldn't have
a GOAT legacy.
He wouldn't even be as good because he wouldn't have been coached by as good as managers and everything. So your decision making and what you decide to do with your career is part of your legacy at the end.
Especially when you say Premier League legacy, you're not talking about footballing legacy. You're not talking about the Champions League. You're not talking about international play. We're talking about purely the Premier League as a competition.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. In the Premier League, does Gerrard have one of the best central midfield legacies in the Champions League? Yeah,
100%.
He won the thing. He's got iconic moments that were in seasons where his team won it. Or got
who's the better Champions League legacy? Gerrard, De Bruyne?
KDB doesn't have a Champions League legacy yet because he hasn't won it yet. And this is what always confuses me about these conversations. When you speak about which club's got the best European legacy in England,
Liverpool.
They'll say Liverpool, and the biggest reason they'll give you is we've won 6 of them.
Yeah.
We've won 6. So how can a team that's won 3 have a greater legacy? You know, Arsenal have been in it. Arsenal were in it how many bloody times? 20 odd times. Never won the thing, but they have almost 0 legacy. They've had some good games, good moments, but that didn't lead to lifting the trophy.
Right.
When I look at KDB as an individual player, ability-wise, he's up there with every single one of the greatest midfielders in Premier League history. Mm-hmm. But I sometimes feel City players get so disrespected because maybe they don't have as big a fan base that kind of pushes these agendas online. Pundits in them. There's basically,
I can't lie though.
There's basically Micah Richards in the media who's City, that they don't really have anybody that's really fighting their corner.
For me though, I agree. Normally, I've always said though De Bruyne seems to be like the odd one out because everyone loves Kevin De Bruyne. I feel like he actually has a massive fan base in terms of people are talking about him. I've seen numerous people say he's in contention for best Premier League midfielder of all time. He's consistently called the best midfielder in the world. I think this is just Liverpool fans being like extremely powering in terms of social media presence. Like they can shut down anything. Because for me, De Bruyne, I think he gets his love. I think he's one of the few City players ever.
He does get a lot of respect to be fair. But I think in terms of pushing these agendas, I just feel I shouldn't feel this as a Man United fan. I shouldn't care, but as a football fan, the way I feel, Company, David Silva, Aguero, KDB, I think they're disrespected in these conversations. They're just always kind of slightly overlooked when you get to go for particular positions. But I just can't accept that Gerrard has a greater legacy than him. Is Gerrard more famous in certain walks of life? Yes, he was an England player. He was England captain, I believe, for a time, if I remember correctly. Of course, Gerrard, you know, he was the Liverpool captain. But he can't have a better legacy. And I know even though now I can even read some of the comments now. Oh, what are you going to say, Terry? Luke Chadwick or Anderson have got a better legacy because they've won more. Those players probably aren't even in my top 100 Premier League midfielders if I was to actually put those lists together. Maybe Anderson somewhere, but because he was fun, but probably not. If I look at my kind of top 5, and I'm actually taking a certain player out and I'm putting KDB in it now, my top 5, and in no order, include Roy Keane, Patrick Vieira, Paul Scholes, Frank Lampard, and now KDB. And I did have N'Golo.
I questioned that. That was the one I questioned. Yeah.
And I kind of looked at it last night and I reflected and I went, I just think if all the great things that Kante can do, KDB, just the ability of him, it just puts him slightly in front.
Too. A player who scores and assists is always going to.
Because it's a very, very, very hard thing to do. I'm not putting players in my top 5, top 10, top 15 that were just squad players at Man United, and because they've got a winner's medal, they're suddenly one of the best midfielders in Premier League history. They're not. I'm talking about players that were key components and hugely influential in multiple title-winning seasons for their football clubs. And I understand people say, but Gerrard didn't play for better teams. Well, he had an opportunity in his early 20s and mid-20s and even late 20s to move to teams that, by the way, were surrounded by better players in terms of what you're saying, with great managers where he could have actually tested himself. Is he good enough to be a influential player in a team that's capable of winning the league title? So even by their own arguments, his decision to stay at Liverpool damages his legacy. So, and again, I will reiterate, legacy, not ability, because ability is, one, it's too subjective, and
sure.
two, everybody goes into the ability conversation. Legacy, listen, I've never seen an NBA player that's looked at as one of the greatest ever that didn't win whatever it is. That is it, the championship, like it won it. When you think about the NFL, people that are looked at as GOATs, nearly every single time I see somebody spoken about as a GOAT, they've got a Super Bowl ring.
Here's the thing too, right?
We've got to have that same energy.
The thing is, like, if Gerrard had won one Premier League trophy, I think then you can start using the argument of like, oh, he would have won even more if he had this amount of teammates. Like, he doesn't have one, so like it's hard to make that argument.
And he was in a number of title races.
Yeah, he was exactly.
There was a number of, and the thing is, for me, one of the most iconic moments Gerrard had in the Premier League was one of his goals where he, in the game where they bashed Man United 4-1, I think
he went and kissed the camera.
He went and kissed the camera. Moments like that are iconic because the game, the goal, the title race, the celebration's iconic. But that was in a season where he didn't win the league. If I think about Eric Cantona's chip, if I think about Wayne Rooney's overhead kick, Aguero's last-minute goal, and I'm naming a few, Tony Adams suddenly being in the opponent's box in the dying minutes and like chesting the ball down and volleying it in. All these iconic moments happened in title-winning seasons.
That's why they're iconic.
And that's why they're iconic. Because
if you ask me what's Gerrard's most iconic moment in the Premier League, it's slipping.
And again, Liverpool fans will tell you what it is, but you're an icon when people outside of your fan base know. If someone said to me, Gerrard in the FA Cup, well, that's screaming equaliser against West Ham, winning the FA Cup. I think about the captain's performance in the second half in Istanbul. I think about the goal against Olympiacos. Those two stand out I remember those moments
because they let this on.
And I remember those moments. If he'd have got that goal against Olympiacos and then Liverpool were knocked out in the next round, that Olympiacos goal wouldn't be remembered. It's remembered because you end up winning the thing. And, you know, if Ole Gunnar Solskjaer would have scored a last-minute equaliser against Bayern Munich, but then we lost on penalties,
no one
it wouldn't be remembered. And you have to, for me, you have to win. But look, viewers, I want your take. I want your view. Where do you rank KDB in terms of the top 5, top 10 midfielders legacy-wise in Premier League history? I want you to list your top 10 for us right about now. My people, please make sure you're smashing like buttons as well and subscribing. Now, sticking with City, they find themselves 3 points clear at the top of the league.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you see another twist or turn in this title race now, or do you think it's done?
I've been saying, like, listen, I predicted City to win the league every single step of the way. Even when they had that mishap and Liverpool picked up form and you predicted Liverpool, I still said Pep in a 38-game season, until I see it, this is the king. This is his bread and butter. His teams, and I found it so funny, the Patrice Evra quote that he had saying, oh, Pep doesn't like mentality, guys with mentality or leaders, doesn't like being questioned. You look at this City team and the amount of title races they've had to go through and the amount of points they've collected, to be able to go that far in title races and be on the cusp of winning 4 and 5, you can't win that without a mentality. Like, you look at De Bruyne's performance last night, that's mentality right there. When they're going into this game against West Ham with no fit center backs, if they win that game, that's mentality. So City, they just know how to win league games. It still has to be shown in the Champions League, where I have major question marks over them and Guardiola. But in the league, they're kings, man, for a good reason. They're going to win this league.
Yeah, look, I agree. They're going to win the league. I think there's just too much to be done and too little time for Liverpool now. They also need to win one of their last games, like 8-9-0 as well. So not only do they need City to lose, Liverpool have also got to.
The goal difference is 7. Yeah.
So there's got to be an 8-point goal difference swing in that as well. So it's 4 points. It's very, very difficult to get done, and it's going to take not even a minor miracle. We are talking about turning water into wine, sort of gospel, well, made up stories, but like miracles.
I mean, listen, their idea their idea of a miracle is that Coutinho and Gerrard are going to stand him on the last day of the season.
I thought KJ had earphones and he weren't hearing me on that.
Their idea of a miracle is Coutinho and Gerrard on the final day is going to, do it for Liverpool. And
yeah, we'll see. Can you imagine if City are losing on the final day and Gerrard winning? But no, it wouldn't work that way, would it? Sorry, I got confused. I thought that Gerrard, they just played them. If Gerrard was really going to do them a favor, he would have let his team batter them the other day. They tried to win. Like,
I would have loved to see the reaction from Liverpool fans, by the way, if Gerrard had beaten Liverpool.
Do you know what? So that game was gutting because of course the equalizer came too quickly. If that would have gone on for 5 to 10 minutes, who knows what would have happened in that game? but it was a very good game. And
Yeah, it was great.
Liverpool did very well to come back into it as well. But they started like a team that didn't believe they were going to win the league anymore. And they kind of got a scrappy equaliser back, and they just grew into the game. And they're a much better team than Villa. There's no doubt about it. But of course, City, though, have signed... I want to talk about the league first, though. I'm going to go to the signing hot take in a minute, but this hot take kind of struck out that you sent through to me. Now, this was an interesting one that I wanted to get your take on, really, even though I know you know what it is because you sent it to me. It says, he's talking about himself, but Liverpool lost 2 games and we won't win the league. It's not football anymore.
2008, 2009, Manchester United win the league. Thanks to Makeda, by the way. Makeda spawned out of nowhere and saved the season for United. But Liverpool lost 2 games that season. They finished on 86 points, and they drew 11 games in a 38-game campaign. Now, this was in 2009, where apparently football was rubbish. Man United cheated and paid their way to the league titles. Sir Alex won Mickey Mouse leagues. This is in 2009, where Liverpool almost won the league. I wonder where Gerrard was in that period of time. But anyways, for me, this whole thing of like, two losses, and we're still not going to win the league. Yeah, man, it's not easy to win league titles, right? The league title doesn't go to a team that loses 10. And I look at some of the games that Liverpool have dropped points in. They've dropped points to Brentford. They dropped points to Brighton. They dropped points to West Ham. It's not like they're... In fact, this season, Terry, they didn't beat City either game. They didn't beat Chelsea either game. These are the games you need to win league titles. So yeah, this whole, we only lost 2 games.
No,
what was you?
I agree, but also in like 2008 and 2009 or 2008, 2007, Chelsea only lost 3 games in those seasons and didn't win the league.
Yeah.
Sometimes drawing matches, if Liverpool would have lost 2 more games, but those games were draws, that's only 2 more points less they'd have. But if you turn 3 of those draws into wins and a couple into losses, you have more points.
Yeah, it's better to lose and win than to draw 2.
Exactly. And I think that's the point there. Again, there's a lot of brilliant Liverpool supporters out there, but every time they've been in a title race with Klopp so far, it's been twice, and they haven't won it. First time around, they were calling for a special trophy to be made because of how many points they got for coming second, and they felt it deserved
the best second place ever.
Yeah, this time around, it's like this isn't football anymore. It isn't fair. We've won so much. They've spoken in the last few weeks about that there needs to be like a playoff. If there's no more than a point between the 2 teams at the top, there should be a playoff. And it's like there's been loads of Premier League titles where teams have been separated by a point or 2. Man United had it in 2012 where it was separated by goal difference. Yeah. And just what's crazy as well, like City and Liverpool up the ante in terms of total points. But again, there's such a revision of history here. And I'm a little disappointed with a lot of the mainstream media pundits, the elder statesmen that have been around. Because from the 90s onwards, when I really got massively interested in football, and mainly that's because that's from when I turned like 6 or 7 or 8, like I was a kid before that, playing with toys. The amount of times I saw a team win a league title with 3, 4, 5, sometimes 5, 6 games to go.
Yeah.
And then for the remainder of that season, those teams rotated squads, played relatively drunk, and played kids and dropped a number of points.
I never forget 2013, Fergie's last year. We won the league with like 6 or 7 games left.
I think it was 5 games. We won. I think there might be 4 to go. We beat Villa on the 5th to last game.
Yeah. And we basically threw the rest of the season. We had nothing left. We had no other trophies to compete for. It was over.
And we finished on 89 points that year. Yeah. If we would have gone into that Arsenal game, the Chelsea game, and the final game against West Brom fully focused, we could have easily picked up 6 more points. Easily, which means it would have been a 95-point win.
And that is not a good United team. Like, objectively, it's not.
And this kind of, listen, the Centurions deserve their credit. The teams that have got 99 points and 96 points, they're brilliant teams. But there now is this like relentlessness where there were times where City and Liverpool in their huge seasons where they won the league were so far in front. And they carried on like not rotating and winning these games. It was almost not pointless because they were going for this points total thing. But teams just did, like, it was never spoken about as something anybody cared about. If Man United were clear by 18 points, and we had some league titles we were clear by that much, sometimes we would rotate games and we lost today. But it's because we rotated and played a really weak team. And it was like, it's annoying, but no one really cared because no one was chasing points total.
I mean, for me, Terry, I always say this. My whole view on points tallies. I never compare points tallies from one season to another because each league season is different. Like, for example, now, if Liverpool throw the last 2 games of the season away, let's just say they do, because they say, we don't believe we can do it anymore. We want to focus on the FA Cup. We want to focus on the Champions League. Let's just say hypothetically they do, and they finish on 86 points. And you just said that United team from 2012-13 finished 89 points. Are we going to say now that United team is better than this Liverpool team? Absolutely not. It's different league campaigns.
The context is always needed. And I think that's what the problem is. And this isn't a dig. So to bring this right round, I think because the narrative in the last 3 or 4 years has been the amount of points you get proves how great you are in terms of overall Premier League legacy. They feel like getting a higher amount of points than a lot of previous champions means they need some special accolade, a certificate, a gold star to give to their mum. I don't know what it is. It's like they need something.
I'll tell you what it is. Liverpool fans just aren't used to winning. This is new to them. This whole thing of coming second of a lot of points, no, in fact, does not get you a league title. Welcome to reality. That's the honest reality of it.
There we go. The other take I wanted to mention before the end here.
Yeah.
So another one you sent through to me. I wanted to get your take on this.
Erling.
Right? So this is from another Liverpool fan about Mr. Haaland.
Yeah.
It says a big, lanky presence who runs in behind for 90% of his goals in a team who faces deep blocks and relies on possession football is not the smooth transition FIFA would make you think it is. Lukaku at Inter was better than 2022 Haaland.
Well, 2022 Haaland is 21 years old. Lukaku is not 21 years old. And I think I agree to some extent that it's not going to be a smooth transition. I don't think Haaland is going to score a hat-trick on his first game for Manchester City. I think, and I've been on the record, I think there will be an adaptation period for him, for Manchester City, and for Pep Guardiola, naturally, because they've been playing with this false nine setup. They're entering this guy who is not a false nine. He's not your diminutive Sergio Aguero. Like, he is an out-and-out goal scorer, and you are going to have to adapt to him. But at the end of the day, guys, this is a 21-year-old who has hunger, who has mentality. And I think that hasn't been spoken enough about. Haaland is a mentality monster. And he's going to be a guy that wants to be the best. He wants to win trophies. And he's going to listen to what Pep Guardiola has to say. In my mind, I look at this as Pep Guardiola has basically a mold to play with. He can mold this guy into whatever he wants. And he's going to mold him into one of the most fearsome strikers that, if his body remains fit and his current progression continues, we're looking at one of the greatest strikers of all time. Again, unless his body breaks down.
Yeah, of course. Do you know what it is? The only level of criticism that I think is fair is that he has an injury issue.
Yeah.
That I can accept. People are also being disrespectful towards Pep. What you have to do to keep winning is evolve how your team plays.
Yes.
If Pep plays the same way every single year, teams can work it out.
Yeah.
Teams can. One of the reasons that Thiago was such an important signing for Liverpool, and once he found his feet and started playing well, Liverpool went back to another level, is because the ball, then you play the ball in a different way. Liverpool continuously just feeding the ball down the flanks. They were getting found out a little bit. They were getting caught out and they were losing more points. Now, if Thiago would have clicked from the second he walked in, Liverpool would have had a much better season last year.
Yeah.
Of course, injuries, Thiago himself kept being out injured, didn't help.
Thiago also had to adapt to the system and the league.
And as soon as he started to get better towards the end of last season, their form came back because they were able to play differently. You have to evolve how you play. Which do you go more down the left, more down the right? Do you play more centrally, as an example? Basic football knowledge should tell you this.
And here's the thing with Haaland too. Haaland, for the injury record, is going to a team that can rotate better than almost anyone. Like, they can manage his fitness. They can manage that. And if he doesn't bang from the moment, we've seen Grealish this year. He's a £100 million signing that there's no pressure for him to deliver on the spot, because if he doesn't play well, okay, we're just going to go bring Phil Foden on the left. We'll bring Sterling or Mahrez in. So this signing for me is a home run. The price, even with all the agent fees and everything, if it comes out to 250 million for Haaland, when we've seen Mbappe and Neymar go for 200 million just in transfer fees alone, this signing is it's unbelievable.
It's still very, very cheap. And do you know what? As I was saying, I'm quite happy to see if Pep's going to evolve his system to not using a false nine, now using an out-and-out number 9. You've obviously got Alvarez that's coming in as well. That's also another central striker. So it's almost, well, we're going to play differently now. We're going to play in a different way. We'll drill it all summer. We'll get it working. And we're going to play in a different way. And now you've got to second guess and try and work us out again.
And here's the thing, too. Pundits have been complaining. Pundits and fans have been saying over and over, City need a striker, City need a striker, City need a striker. They go and buy one of the best, most complete young strikers on the planet. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh, how is he going to make it work? If I have faith in anyone to make a signing work, it's Pep Guardiola.
I'm going to say this as well. I'm a little different to you. I think he will start off fast as long as he's fit.
Okay.
If he stays fit this season, 30 games in, Haaland breaks Salah's goal scoring record for a single season. I think he'll score that many goals.
You think he's going to score over 32 goals in a league season?
In 30 games?
I think you're crazy. I don't think it's
I think he's that good.
No, I think he's unbelievable, but I think you're overestimating.
He has to be fit and playing in those games.
Yeah, I get that. But here's the thing too with City. Like, this is where I wouldn't go that far, because I think the goals are shared more evenly at City. I think the responsibility won't be solely on him. Like, if he went to, I don't know, if you replaced him with Heung-Min Son at Spurs, where everything was directed to Harry Kane playing Erling Haaland in behind, then I think, yeah, he could do it. But I don't think you'll ever see really a City striker hitting 35 goals in a season. In a league season.
Maybe. I kind of feel, though, that with the rotation,
that's another thing, though.
Him missing out. Okay, you're going to come off early here. You're going to come on here. Like, he'll come on in certain games where City are already 2-0 up. And you're going to bring on a fit and raring Haaland with 20 minutes to go. That's when he'll come on and score a lot of goals. I feel like
he's coming off the bench.
Yeah, but again, if he doesn't play and come on, and by the way, like I've said, in 30 games, if he doesn't play 30 games, my prediction ain't wrong. If he only plays 25 games because he ain't being pipped, then I'm not wrong either. But I feel like if he gets that amount of games, he's that good. He'll score that amount. I just think he is, in terms of a finisher,
he's a killer.
At a young age, the only striker in my lifetime at his age, I think, that's a better finisher than him was R9. At that age, like, no one's.
I can't think of anyone. No one really.
At that age was that good.
For me, this is what I think is going to happen. I think he's going to score around 20 league goals, which you might say, oh, that's nothing. But to be honest, like, league goals as well, this is a season where, like, there's a few on 18, 19. There's a few seasons where, like, someone will score 28 and second will be 27. So it's weird how it works sometimes. I think he's going to end up scoring 20-ish goals. But I think the Champions League is 36 is crazy. I think the Champions League, though, is where you'll really see Erling Haaland's impact, because then I think it just gives City a new dynamic. And I think that's the thing. They have a new plan B now.
I'm going for 50 goals all comps.
That's crazy. I'd put money on that he doesn't do that. That's crazy.
We'll see. Look, Joe, if he ends up on 40, I'm not taking an L. The only way I'm taking an L on this, if he comes in all comps at like 18 or something, like, if he's got high numbers.
You said he's breaking Salah's record.
I'm over the chest. Go on, my guy, Hart. The worst bit is, I don't even want him to, because it's City.
It's like Liverpool from winning the league.
Well, yeah. No, we got Frenkie de Jong coming. We're back, bruv.
We're back, G. Kamara too. Oh my God.
We got Fletcher making the decisions.
And Hags at the wheel.
We're back, exactly, bruv. But listen, viewers, we want your thoughts on the hot takes today, and of course the Liverpool-Chelsea FA Cup final. We want your predictions in terms of who is going to win. Make sure you check out the latest episode of The 12th Man, a big special episode for the FA Cup final as well. That's available on the Terrace right now. But until next time, Liaz, pleasure as always, my friend. Take care. Goodbye. God bless people. And we'll see you soon.
Peace.